Okay, great. I think we can get started now. Like I said, thanks everyone for joining us today for this Global Recycling Day webinar. Global Recycling Day is actually on Saturday, but we thought we'd do our webinar today because we don't want to do it on a Saturday. My name's Rory. I'm the Head of Sustainability here at Recora.
My name's Lauren. I'm one of the Sustainability Executives for Recora. So just a quick overview of what we're going to be looking at today on the agenda. We're going to start off with talking about Global Recycling Day, what this highlights and why it's so important. And then we're going to take a look at some material streams that are often forgotten about within mainstream recycling. So that will include IT and electrical equipment, coffee cups and office furniture. So we'll just have a look at the problems that we face with recycling those materials and what we can do as a company. And then to finish off, we will take a look at some recycling innovation projects that we've worked on in the past few years and some services that we currently provide now as well. And throughout the webinar, please feel free to type into the chat if you have any questions at all. But there will be some time at the end for some questions if you have any then as well. So we'll start off.
Okay, thanks, Lauren. Yeah, so just like I said, this is Global recycling in the world, and recycling saves around 700 million tons of CO2 each year, which is the equivalent that all the CO2 that the UK produces each year. So it's a fairly big part of the global carbon emissions. One of its overarching aims is to get people to change from this idea of that waste is a throwaway item, it's not something that anyone wants, and change that thinking into it actually being a resource and actually being something that people can use, people in need. The idea of one man's treasure is another man's trash. So instead of thinking about things that we can just throw away and dispose of, it's actually a useful item. And then this year's theme is around creative innovation. So we thought the kind of the theme of this webinar that we put together is kind of putting those two things together. Thinking about items that you don't necessarily associate with when you think about commercial waste and recycling, and really shining a spotlight on them and talking about why we need to think about them more and what we can do to think of them as a resource rather than waste. So the first topic we're going to talk about is IT and electric and electronic and electrical equipment. So IT, anything that's data bearing, sort of your phone or your laptop, your computer, anything that holds information. And then electronic and electrical equipment is anything with a plug, really, anything that has a power source and needs energy to be used. So just to start off, we're going to do a quick poll just to make sure everyone's listening. Who are the top 3 e-waste producers in the world per capita? So which countries produce the most e-waste in the world per capita? So please, if you just want to type in your responses into a little poll that should have popped up on your screen now. Just as we're doing this, these top 3 countries, each of them produces more than 20 kilograms per capita of electronic waste. So it's quite a large amount that is actually produced in these countries. So as you just type in your answers there, the bigger the answers, the more response that people are putting forward. So we've got USA and UK and Japan, China, India. No one thinks Norway or Switzerland or Germany. Okay, so we've got China, USA and Japan. Oh, UK seems to be coming up as well. Give you another few seconds to put in your answers. Okay, we've got USA, China and UK, I think, are the top 3. Well, in actual fact, the top 3 producers per capita are Norway, UK and Switzerland. So nobody said Norway, someone said Switzerland, and then we've got UK as well. So that's per person. So obviously with different populations, it affects the amount that they produce. But if you see here in the total 1,000 tons in which they produce, the UK produces far more electronic waste than those two other countries. So in the UK, electronic waste is a very big issue, and that we dispose a lot of it, and we don't do a very good job at disposing of it, which I'll go on to now. But why we want to talk about this is people don't often think about it in the commercial office world. If you think about waste and recycling in your office, you probably think about your printer paper, you think about your lunch, you think about drinks bottles and cans. You don't often think about your IT waste. But if we just look at this picture, which I think sums it up well, of just how much electronic equipment we actually have in our offices. So this person here has 3 screens, not sure why they need 3 screens, but they got 3 screens. There's some headsets, we've got a telephone, we've got a printer, we've got some laptops, we've got some plugs, we've got some screens, we've got lots of electronic waste. And if I was to ask you what happens to this waste whenever it's disposed of, I don't think many of you would be able to give me an answer to that. Whereas if I asked you what happens to your paper and plastic, you might be able to give me a good guess. And globally, there is a massive problem with disposing of e-waste. So globally, only 17% of the amount of IT and e-waste that is disposed of is actually recorded. So we actually know where it goes. And you might think that this is maybe developing countries who don't have the resources to dispose of these items correctly, or dragging down the average. And there is definitely an element of that. The EU are the leaders in this, and 35% of the e-waste that the UK produces is recorded, but the UK is the worst within the EU and within Europe, and only 17.4% of the IT and electrical waste that we dispose of is actually recorded. So not recycled, not reused, not repurposed, that's actually recorded, so people actually know where that has been sent to be disposed of. And kind of why are we highlighting this topic, this issue? Well, there's kind of 2 sides to it. The first side is the manufacturing of these items. This table here just shows elements and precious metals and kind of their scarcity in our world. So the darker the color, the more serious threat there is to the supply of them running out. So the red ones within the next 100 years, orange increased risk, and then the sort of orange ones, the light orange ones, at risk of supply. And the ones with crosses through them are elements and precious metals that are found in IT and in electrical waste. So you can see that there is a big correlation between these elements being scarce and their supply running out, and then being involved in electronic items. And with this, because they're scarce, there's a lot of illegal activity in terms of the mining of these items and things like that. But that's only one side of the coin. The other side of the coin is what actually happens when you dispose of these items. Now, this is a picture of Accra in Ghana, where there is a dump site near the capital. And this is a picture, and this man is a burner boy, they're called. And what they do is they get all the electronic equipment, whether that be laptops, phones, wiring, cables, things like that. They will burn away the plastic casings of these items to then retrieve those precious metals that are found in the items. So there's lots of gold, platinum found in laptops. Just idea of what can be found. So they will burn away all these things and then collect the precious metals. Horizon did a documentary on this around 25 years ago and looked at these practices. And then Reggie Yates did one around 4 or 5 years ago and went to the same location, and these practices are still happening. The big difference was 25 years ago, these people were doing it to get money to then pay for their family and things, but now they are doing it to get money to pay for their medical bills, because the plastics and the things that they're burning are extremely bad for humans, and with them burning it, it's going into the soil, it's going into the water supply. You can see buildings and houses in the background here, it's going into the atmosphere, and there is very detrimental health impacts of this practice. And this isn't they're not burning, let's say, laptops that they've got from the local area, or a man in a van collecting 3 laptops from a little office. As we've just shown, only 17% of what the UK throws away is recorded and accounted for and traced. So that means that 83% of all the e-waste that we throw away could very easily be ending up in areas like this around the world. So that's kind of the bad side of what happens to IT waste. But if you use a reputable supplier like ourselves, this is one of our IT technicians, Mario. What we do is, let's say it is a data bearing item, we will collect it with our secure vehicles and our drivers, bring it back to our facility where we have a dedicated IT and asset disposal facility there. We will determine whether it is data bearing or not. We will then put a barcode on that item, which will be a unique barcode to that item. So therefore we can track it from the whole process in which it goes through. If it's data bearing, we will wipe it with our Blanco system, make sure that it's clear so the information can't go into the wrong hands. Businesses will spend billions of pounds protecting their information when it's on site, and we think that that same level of security should be given to it when it's off site, but often people might want cheap and cheerful rather than secure. Once it's been wiped, we will then either try and repurpose that item, or if it needs to be taken apart, we can safely remove those precious elements in a secure facility and a safe way, like we're showing in this picture here. If you want any more information about this service that we provide, then please get in contact with us and we can put you in contact with our head of ITAD. But I also want to ask you, I said earlier that you might know what happens to your plastics and paper, but you don't necessarily know what happens to your IT and electricals. Please have those conversations in your workplace. Please ask the question, what actually happens to these, and then make sure that you are being safe in terms of the information that you have on your office floor and in your laptops, and make sure it doesn't end up into the wrong hands. So now I'm going to pass over to Lauren, who's going to talk to us about coffee cups.
Yeah, thank you, Rory. So coffee cups, I'm sure most of you probably had questions about coffee cups in the past, I'm sure. So we're just going to take a deep dive into coffee cups and their production, some problems that we face with them, and what we can do as a company to help you. So firstly, we just would like to know, you can be completely honest with this, on average, how many coffee cups you purchase a week? So there should be, yeah, the poll question is up. Wasn't sure if people would be honest with this, but it looks like they're being completely honest.
Yeah, some people 0, some people 15, 10. Large number, coffee cups.
Not too bad. Okay. I think 15 is the highest that we've got so far. Okay. So the UK as a whole gets through 2.5 billion coffee cups per year. There was also a study carried out at the beginning of the year in January, which looked at how many paper cups were purchased in a certain amount of time. It found that in the UK, 103 paper coffee cups were bought every second. So as the seconds ticked by and it reached 9 seconds, people had purchased enough coffee cups to reach Big Ben. And then as 12 seconds ticked by, enough coffee cups had been purchased to reach the London Eye. So surprisingly, 69% of the UK population actually own a reusable coffee cup. But sadly, only 1 in 6 people admitted to using that reusable coffee cup every time that they purchase a hot drink. So we'd just like you to think about how many times you actually purchase a hot drink, but when you purchase that hot drink, how many times are you considering using your reusable coffee cup? If you have it with you, do you always remember to take it with you? So this is quite a staggering amount. So when we think about the carbon footprint of the UK's coffee addiction, just going back to that 103 paper coffee cups purchased every second, when you think of that amount, that roughly equates to 60 litres of water and 6 kilograms of carbon dioxide required to produce coffee cups every second. And this is just the coffee cup itself. Because it requires 3 materials to make coffee cups. So that includes virgin paper. It's always usually virgin paper that's used for coffee cups. Polystyrene, which is what the lid is made from. And then polyethylene plastic, which is used for the inner lining. And then at times, a cardboard casing around the outside. So that doesn't even take into account the energy and natural resources required to make the coffee itself, the milk and the water going into the product as a whole. This is just the coffee cups. So it's quite interesting to see on just the coffee cup alone. So what can you actually do to reduce your coffee cup waste? Well, we want you to think about coffee cups like you would with your everyday essential items. So this is things like your keys, your wallet, your phone, things that you don't really think about. You just pick it up in the morning before you go to work, or if you're leaving the house, things that you will always have with you, and hopefully for most of you, unless you're forgetting. But these are things that you don't really think about. So if you go back to that percentage that I mentioned before, 69% of us actually owning a reusable coffee cup. Hopefully many of you on this call today will also own a reusable coffee cup. So you're already halfway there. You just need to remember to take it with you, because there will always be a time when you do actually need it, I'm sure. For many of you as well working in London, because there is always a coffee shop around the corner. It's always so tempting. And who doesn't want to save money while saving the planet? So you can make some big savings if you go to any of the mainstream cafes as well. The highest is Pret. If you love Pret, I mean, I'm sure you'll love it more now for the discounts. So if you, let's say, purchase a coffee every day for 5 days a week, you'll be saving £2.50 a week. So we're just trying to reinforce that idea of the coffee cup is so important. The reusable coffee cup. So please try and remember to take it with you like you do with everything else. And you'll be doing so much already. So what can we do to help reduce coffee cup waste? So we can actually provide coffee cup waste collections if coffee cups are segregated from your mainstream materials. So we can provide you with sacks for those collections, or we can provide you with internal bins, as you can see on this slide. Once we've collected those coffee cups, we will then send it to our reprocessing partner, which is James Cropper. They are based in Cumbria, and they're able to strip that plastic from that paper fibre and then use that paper fibre to recreate more products that are made from paper. And just to add a note on that as well, that it will now be a regulation, well, by January 2024, cafes or outlets that provide coffee cups and have more than 10 or more staff will be required to separate those coffee cups from their mainstream waste collections. So by January 2024, those cafes will need to actually separate those coffee cups. They won't be allowed to just go into general waste. And also please make sure that coffee cups are not put into recycling. As I mentioned before, they are made from 3 different materials. And so that is why it's really important to consider having those coffee cups collected separately if you have it widely used throughout your cafes and cafeterias in the office. So once we've collected and sent those coffee cups to our reprocessing partner in Cumbria, we receive it back in the form of our recycled notepads and business cards as well. So we have a lot of recycled stationery and office supplies here. We can then send back to clients. If this is something that you think you might be interested in or would like in your office, that we've included our office supplies team email on the last slide of the webinar. So if you'd like a bit more information on that, please feel free to get in touch with them through email or just the sustainability team, as we would definitely recommend having it. It's always good to know that you're getting something back after you've had your coffee cups collected. And I'll pass back to Rory to discuss office furniture.
Thanks, Lauren. Yeah, so now just another item in the commercial world that we don't really think about in terms of office furniture. What happens to your desk whenever it's broken and gets removed? What happens to your chair whenever it's broken and needs to be removed? So with office furniture, again, just the last poll of the day. And just remember, if you've got any questions about what we're saying, then please put in the chat any sort of questions that you have. But just a question around how many days a week do you work from home? Reason being that if you're working more from home, then there needs to be less office furniture in the office, but then more office furniture at home. So even though it's kind of like need to dispose of stuff in the office, but then you've also got stuff that you at home that you'll need to dispose of. So just as we're answering that question, just kind of want to highlight some of the problems with office furniture disposal. Whenever an item breaks within the office, it's often a lot easier to repair that or to replace that item rather than repair it. That's because it's cheaper to do it that way. We don't necessarily have the expertise to repair it, and it's cheaper because of the unsustainable materials that we use to create these items. You've also got lots of fixed items in the workplace that are bespoke designed for that area or just made from one feature, so you can't really replace it with different component parts. And then finally, the big issue with disposal in terms of the waste management side of things is that it's very hard to store these items in a materials recovery facility. If we receive lots of cardboard, lots of paper, we can store it and then we can bale it up and make it very compact. Whereas with office furniture, you need someone who is going to look at those items, going to determine whether they can be repaired, whether they need to be replaced. If they can't be repaired, then able to take away all the individual parts and then reuse those individual parts. And then if that's not possible, then you can recycle certain items and dispose of certain items a certain way. But often, waste management companies or other suppliers, not ourselves, may not have the time and resource to do that. So they might just chuck them out the back door or send them off to landfill. So 1.2 million office desks and 1.8 million office chairs end up in landfill each year. And these aren't, like I said, these aren't items that necessarily broken, can't be used. The idea of one man's treasure, another man's trash, these items are perfectly usable and if they a quick repair, but because it is difficult, not difficult, it's not quite the right word, but because it's not necessarily the best use of time for certain waste management companies, they will just send them off to landfill. But we've got the answers now from our poll question. So it's kind of around 1, 2, or 3 days a week. People are working from home. So kind of we just got this stat together that if a quarter of the businesses in the UK close their office space, then 15 million desks and chairs would no longer be in use. So 25% of businesses. So if we convert that to 25 days from home, which is probably, or 25% of our days work from home, which is probably about right on this poll that we've done, then that's 15 million desks and chairs will no longer be in use. So this isn't, again, kind of with the IT and electricals, with the coffee cups, with these desks and chairs, this is a large amount of items that we don't necessarily think about during day to day, but it is a large part of commercial waste. So what can we do? Well, we provide office clearances for all our clients. You just provide a list of what needs to be collected, and we can collect those items, whether that be chairs, desks, tables, lamps, you name it, we can collect it. Come back to our facility, we will do that due diligence on site. We will check the items. If they can be repaired or repurposed, we can do that. If certain items can be removed and be recycled, we will do that. And then eventually, if we find there is no further purpose or use for that item, we will send that off to be incinerated as general waste. We don't send anything to landfill, so it'll be incinerated. But kind of the better option that we do and what we really try and do with it is we will try and give those items to a good cause or to a charity, so someone who will need to use that. An example of this is the South London Women's Mission that we work with. Recently, we've given them different materials needed for their Saturday school that they run for kids in the area. So we donated, along with our clients, computer screens, monitors, large amount of paper, and office desks and chairs as well to be used in that facility. So We try and do that first and foremost. We will contact them and say, we have X items, do you have a need for them? And if not, then come back to our facility and we'll do those due diligence checks that we do. But that's what we can do, but then also what can you do? Because with working from home, it means you've got more of this furniture. So one thing you can do is to sell it online and buy refurbished. The secondhand clothing market has boomed recently with different organizations such as Vinted. So, and if you think about Facebook Marketplace, that's full of old furniture that's perfectly usable, but just not for that person anymore. You can also donate those items to a local charity. You can get in contact with them just like how we do and say, what sort of items are you always in need of? They might say, we're always looking for chairs or things like that. And then whenever you have them at your facility or at your office, you can then provide them to the charity. And then finally, well, again, what's really popping up now and in the follow-up to this presentation, we will send over the notes and the slides, and we will send you a map of all the repair shops in the area. And these are local cafes that you can take your items to, and you can repair them there using their tools. You can give them to an expert who will show you how to repair it. So then next time it breaks, you'll be able to do it. And then it's also just a good cafe sort of space and social area as well, in which you can go to. And if you're an expert in repairing things, you can go there and help other people repair their items. Okay, gonna hand back to Lauren.
Okay, so we just wanted to touch on some of the recycling innovation projects that we've worked on in the past few years and are currently still running. So one of these includes the Sustainable Box, which is hugely successful with a lot of clients that we work with. So the Sustainable Box is aimed at materials that that are hard to recycle items, like crisp packets, flexible plastics, coffee pods, cork. So what we would do is give you the Sustainable Box, then you'd fill it with one material stream. So if you wanted it for crisp packets, it would be for crisp packets. We'd then come collect that box and then exchange for a new one to provide you with a new one collection. And then what happens to those hard to recycle materials, they are then sent to our reprocessing partner called Stormboard, and they use those materials to produce a recycled alternative to plywood, which is used for small scale construction. So these are things that we still struggle to recycle, but as we can collect them separately now and provide you with a box, it's much easier for us to be able to do that. So we would definitely encourage you to, if you think you might like it in the office. Some other material streams that we have trialed recently is paper towels. So we partnered with Talk, who produce paper towels. So we can provide collections for paper towels and cartons like Tetra Pak as well. But again, as with flex plastics, paper towels and cartons would need to be a separate collection service that you have. So it's separated from everything else, as they can't go into your mainstream recycling. And we would advise that it didn't go into general waste. So if you can get it collected, that is definitely something that we can provide to you. And compostable packaging as well. So if you use compostable packaging such as vegware, if it's widely used within your cafeterias or cafes on site, then we can also definitely provide vegware collections for you if that's something you have. But again, it's just reminding you of the materials that people don't generally think about on a daily basis, but it's things that we can actually collect and reprocess if it's collected separately. So again, if you would like any more information on having those materials collected, please do get in touch with us in our sustainability email that will be at the end, and we can provide you with any of the information you need on that service and what we can do for you. But otherwise, that brings us to a close. And if you have any questions related to recycling, if there's something you weren't sure about whether you could recycle or not, or anything that we've raised in the webinar today, please do feel free to let us know in the chat, and we will answer any questions that you have.
Okay, let's just see in the chat here. Any questions that have come through? Just going back and seeing questions. Well, so what happens when you ask me what IT items I want to get rid of? being an IT person, I'm able to give you details. Will the photos suffice? Yes, if you have let's say you've got some IT items or electrical items that you need to dispose of. We don't need to know specific information around, let's say, like serial number or the make or things like that. A photo would do, or if you say I've got 5 laptops, 4 computers, 2 screens, then that is also enough. And then back at our facility, we can determine what we will do with them from there. But yes, if you just have a picture or a list of the items that you have, then that is more than enough. You can contact us or contact our help desk and we can collect them for you. Okay, with regards to paper towels, is it just Talk paper towels? We have a partnership with Talk, and that is kind of who we mainly want to collect Talk paper towels. But if you don't currently have them in your office or don't have them in your office, please still get in contact with us, and then we can speak to you about any other options that we have to collect your paper towels. So that's our preferred ones. But yes, please, if you're interested in that waste stream, then please still contact us and we can speak to you more about them. With the recording, we will send the recording of this afterwards. Like I said, with the information that we said, and maybe the documentaries that I spoke about, and other information that we've spoken about, we will send them over in a follow-up email with the slides and with the presentation. The sustainable box in Birmingham. Georgina, let me get back to you on that, Georgina. I'm trying to think why we wouldn't be able to do it in Birmingham, but we are mainly a London focused and South Coast focused organization. But why, I don't know why we wouldn't be able to do that, but I wouldn't want to give you an answer right now. Please leave that with me and we can get back to you. The contact for IT and furniture items, yes. For furniture items, that would mainly just go through our help desk or through ourselves. But with IT, yes, we can give you the information with our head of ITAD, Sammy, and they can speak to you more about that. So yeah, we will make sure they're in the follow-up show notes as well. Any recommended suppliers for used refurbed office chairs and desks? Do you know of anyone, Lauren?
I think reuse as in RY, REY, and then OOZ. I think reuse.
Yeah.
Sell. I can type it in.
Yeah. Well, we can.
I think reuse is quite good for buying and selling. So if you check the reuse website, we can put the name in there for you. They should definitely provide furniture for you to purchase. So that's definitely a good platform to check.
So someone's asked about the rubbish in the office collected together with no separation. I'm not sold. We can definitely help you with that. I'm not sure if we service your site at the minute. If we do, then we can definitely come in and we do recycling improvement strategies for clients and tenants, where we come in and we speak about what you've got on site and kind of any improvements that can be made. So if we do service your site, then please get in contact with us and we'd be more than happy to come on site and help you really separate those different items. Not just the big ones that we've spoken about today, but things like food and general waste and paper and plastics, kind of like the nuts and bolts. We can really talk to you about that as well. With vapes, we are looking into these at the minute, but please, with vapes, just put them into a battery box at the minute, dispose of them, because they've kind of got the vape and then they've got like a little battery within them. So please put them in battery boxes at the minute, and we are investigating what best solution for them is, because they are a new waste stream that's appeared only within the last year or two. So we are investigating that, but in the meantime, please put them in your battery boxes. Okay, if there are any other questions, please write them in the chat. Like we said, we'll send out these information, excuse me, this information along with the slides and answers to these questions as well, because I imagine that these questions are common questions that everyone will have. So we will answer them as well. And just if I go to the next slide, you will see that we have at the bottom, we have the email addresses for our office supplies team. We have the email address for the sustainability team here in London, but also if you're down on the South Coast, then please contact Vanessa if you have any further questions or thoughts down there as well. But if no one has any further questions or thoughts, then please, then if you do further on today, or when you talk to your colleagues and friends about what you've learned today and they have any follow-up questions, then please let us know. Our contact details are there, and we'll send out the follow-up information. But thank you all again for joining us today, and I hope that was useful and helpful, and please have a very nice end of the week and good Global Recycling Day on Saturday.